Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a surprise ambush stream. Continuation from Monday's D.E.I. Deathwatch show. I'm your host, Scribelight. It's Wednesday morning, and just because of scheduling and other things, I wanted to get this out of the way because I was curious, and I've only got so much time in the day to get things like this done now. Ta-da! So, here we are. Hope everybody's doing well on this beautiful Wednesday morning. So for those of you that do not know, on Monday, as part of the D.E.I. Deathwatch broadcast, we watched the first 12 minutes or so of a roundtable discussion between black business leaders arranged by Bloomberg. This happened back in, or at least the video was posted, I believe, in May. And they were discussing the ramifications and the current fallout from the anti-DEI push in America. You don't necessarily have to have watched the first part to continue on with us into this, because it was a lot of surface level fluff, a lot of introductory sort of I don't know how else to describe it. Now, I timestamped a link in the description to where the first part of the video begins in Monday's broadcast. So if you want to watch that, by all means, check it out. It gives you sort of I guess, an introduction to where they're coming from on this. It's a lot of fear-mongering and contradictions of intention when it comes to meritocracy versus, affirmative action. And, is it wrong to have programs that give people a preference? And so it's interesting, but I'll say that all things considered, I didn't hear anything new there that I haven't heard from DEI advocates in the past. The interesting thing is, of course, when you have a collection of people all defending the one thing at the same time, and how they interact in trying to participate or one-up each other on tales of woe. And it was interesting. The one really interesting part of the first part of this was that the one CEO guy, I believe is the bald-headed gentleman, he stopped everybody and said, we're all CEOs. Each of us are at the top of our game. We've had storybook careers. We've amassed more wealth than we'll ever know what to do with. Do we really have a place to complain? And that notion, I don't know if it'll be picked up in this in the continuing parts of this, but that just kind of floated away all of a sudden. Like, yeah, exactly. How have you guys been harmed? Or is it possible that your opportunities were handed to you out of pity and not because of your skill? Is that question not even worth asking? But anyway, so we're going to continue on. The whole talk is like 47 minutes long. We're 12 minutes in. So I'm going to try to get through the whole thing here. I've got about 2 hours. I've got about a 2-hour span. So just for my own sense of completionist in making sure I cover all the bases on this, because I was too curious not to continue. But who's joining me this morning? Hero Soldier, good morning. Walter Tomaszewski, good morning. Miranda Stone is here, guys. I don't know if you know about Miranda Stone. Noah Sencio, good morning. The Luke Skywalker, good morning. Do you need to watch the first part to understand this? I don't think so. I think you could probably go back and watch the first part, and it'll be just as supplementary as if you saw the first part and are watching this. Because it's kind of a stream of consciousness thing. Let's see. Blakester, good morning. Funtime Bats, hello. The Best Remy, good morning. Mike Savage, Blard. Kirsten Scholl's over on the X Machine. Yes, guys, I am simulcasting on X. So if you have an X account and see this over there, please do consider retweeting it out, sharing it out, all that good stuff. Adabisi, good morning to you. Sagacious 6, will breakfast in bed be provided? No. I am not a full service Scribelight in that regard. Apologies. wait, is it okay? It's been a while. Is it Daniel Parnas? D. Parnas. Because, YouTube changed all the names away from like what you could put in, and now it's at your at. Does the D stand for Dan? Is my memory completely off? Or was the D ever specified or defined? Daryl! Oh, dang it. Daniel. Daryl. Okay. Close. Good morning, Daryl Parnas. I apologize. And also Corey Suzuki. Good morning. All right, guys, we're going to get into this and try to run our way through it. So I'm starting a few seconds before I cut off from the last time. We were about 12 minutes last time. I'm just under that. And we're going to be coming in the middle of a statement, I'm sure. And I have my this is transformative work filter up. So with all that being said, let's continue with our CEO Roundtable, specifically black CEOs discussing DEI and it's the anti-DEI movement.
And you do not
Whoa. Okay, it's a little loud. I'm going to bring it down just a smidge. I noticed that when I listened back before. I pumped the volume up on this just a bit too much.
invest in your brand, in your company, in your talent. 2 years from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, all of these things that are happening, where these pullbacks are happening, they are going to come home to roost. And so I think for us, our job is to remind people this is a data-driven assignment now.
A data-driven assignment. Okay, now just for reference purposes, the only data that they provided so far, Bloomberg put up a card citing a McKinsey study quote, saying that diverse teams lead to 9% better outcomes, or are 9% more likely to have better outcomes. 9% more likely. Wow, 9%. Otherwise, there have been statistics that have been thrown out by our speakers previously, but they were all unreferenced and just sort of hand-waved. And to this point, and this was something that I mentioned not only in multiple DEI talks previously, but certainly in this one, at no point thus far has anyone at the table cited a specific corporate example of DEI success, as in, look at what happened at Google, or look at what happened at Microsoft, look at all the gains that they made provably. Or, and probably most significant so far, because we haven't heard everything, no one at the table has cited the success, the demonstrable success of their own company's DEI programs. That may happen. I mean, we're not fully into it yet. Maybe someone will say something, but it was really remarkable in all their sort of introductory spiels that nobody said, at my company, we did this, this, and this was the result. This was the return on the investment. So
now for corporate America, and frankly for the federal government too.
There were some corporations that had that proof. I mean, let's just take the retail.
Oh, okay, all right. Hey, well, ask and ye shall receive. Okay, give me that proof. What was the company that had the proof?
Side.
Right.
You talk about Target opening.
Target had proof of DEI's efficacy.
Up at shelves to hundreds of black businesses. The impact was tangible.
The impact was tangible. Okay, so Target opened up its shelves to dozens of black businesses. So they increased their... Wait a second. What does their being black have to do with the products? Or the products... I feel as though I am being manipulated here.
Anybody can go, you can look at their quarterly reports. Mm-hmm. It was tangible, but...
It was tangible. Okay, Target underperforms peers. Short period of outperformance followed DEI initiative. Wait. Am I missing something here? Okay, and this is Bloomberg's card they're putting up. Here, let me take away the filter for a second, just so that everybody can see this. I apologize. I have to keep some things up for the sake of other things, but Okay. Which button do I push here? No, not that one. That one. And how about that one? There we go. All right. Target underperforms peers. Short period of outperformance followed DEI initiative. Target is the red line. S&P 500 consumer staples sector is the black line. What? Okay. And I am not a statistics guy. I'm not a business guy. Somebody in the chat, am I looking at a chart that shows Target went down in sales? And he says this is proof of DEI's efficacy? Am I missing something here? I'll let the video keep. I'll back up a little bit. I'm confused.
Driven assignment now for corporate America and frankly for the federal government too.
There were some corporations that had that proof. I mean, let's just take the retail side.
Right.
You talk about Target opening up its shelves to hundreds of black businesses. The impact was tangible. Anybody can go, you can look at their quarterly reports. It was tangible.
It was tangible. Okay. Well, are we talking? Okay, when you're talking about DEI, okay. So you think that the core of DEI is putting products on shelves and discriminating on what businesses you'll put on the shelves based on race. I mean, that is DEI, but that's not the core of DEI. DEI is hiring and promotion and staffing. Target running a virtue signaling campaign of look at all of the black businesses' products we put on the shelves is not the core driver of DEI initiatives. So I'm okay. And again, I'm still waking up maybe here. Angela Arriaga, yes, that is what the chart shows. Unless they were doing even worse at that time the year before, this guy can't read a chart. Target stocks losing value in 2022 below the market average. Right, so unless I'm missing something, is Bloomberg having to fact check their own moderator during the course of this video just to make sure that they're covering all their bases? Yeah, okay, so 2021 to 2022. Okay, that's the only time that the red line is higher than the black line. Ironically enough. And so there was a push. I wonder what that was. Was there like a big hype on the racial reckoning during that time? So was bringing in and saying specifically that you're bringing in products from black businesses, was it just following the hype train? And that lasted for about a year, and then it just went downwards from there because the enthusiasm, the virtue signaling, the sense of it meaning something was a flash in the pan. Is this really? I'm boggled. Boggled, I tell you. Anyway.
But once Stephen Miller and some of the other folks started coming for them because of their stance, and not just for black entrepreneurs, but what they did for LGBTQ.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Target pulls back diversity programs as Trump takes aim at DEI. Okay, you're talking about two completely different things here. DEI in hiring, DEI in promotion, programs and organizations that target race or gender in contradiction to existing civil rights laws. Target putting products on the shelves from black businesses is an outgrowth of that same thinking. Okay, so it's Donald Trump's fault that Target's numbers dropped through the floor. And let's look at that chart again. Let's look at that chart again. Sorry. When was Donald Trump reelected? When was Donald Trump reelected again? Oh, that's right. 2024. Late 2024. Didn't take office until 2025. Target's numbers were already to the floor before Trump was reelected. This has nothing to do with Donald Trump or Stephen Miller. Your own chart. Guys, I know the chart that Bloomberg themselves displayed for us shows that Target's numbers dropped as of early 2022, and then we're at the bottom by late 2024. But really, it's Donald Trump and Stephen Miller who came into office in 2025 is what doomed Target's numbers. And it's all due, there's no other factors, guys. It's all due to an anti-DEI backlash. Because, again, this is correlation and not causation. Okay, this is everything about Target's business. This is not just about DEI. They can't say with any certainty what specifically DEI did to these numbers. But they will bend over backwards to make you think that this is it. And yet still, okay.
Their quarterly reports, it was tangible. But once Stephen Miller and some of the other folks started coming for them because of their stance, and not just for black entrepreneurs, but what they did for LGBTQ.
I think the public at large had some issues with what Target did with LGBTQ promotion on kids' clothes. I don't know if you remember those stories. And those happened again before Trump became president again.
And other folks as well. I mean, let's just be honest about it. They caved.
You mean that consequences for testing civil rights laws had no teeth to them, either rhetorically or otherwise, prior to Trump coming back into office, and suddenly they did, and Target caved? Why? If they were in the right, if they were making money hand over fist, if they were doing nothing wrong, then why would they cave? If DEI has such firm legal footing, why would they cave?
There are so many companies, individuals, institutions that have in fact been very supportive of us within our community.
Of us? Are you talking about black people writ large again?
And I think it's in our interest to help provide them with support to continue to understand we're here, here's what we can do.
You want to continue preferential treatment based on race, is what I'm hearing.
Let us also show you why and how it benefits you.
Uh-huh. How about through merit and quality of product, quality of output? What does it matter your skin color?
And then they'll be able to at least have the data, the information.
They have the information. They have the data. What? The preferential treatment is going away. If your products and services are solid all on their own, it doesn't matter the melanin count of the owner. Or is that not the world you want to live in?
This necessary to continue to try to support, but there's no doubt there's a cooling effect.
Let me just push back a little bit on the narrative. I mean, we were talking about Target, and obviously there's other companies.
Yeah, there's lots of companies. It depends on what we're talking about. And Target is not in any way, shape, or form the example, I think, our moderator. Again, this is the moderator. Is there, at some point, is he going to take the, at least, devil's advocate position on the opposite side of the argument? But anyway.
But first of all, we have an administration, right, that is bullying corporate America.
Comply with existing federal civil rights laws that have been around since the 60s, or there will be consequences. For everything else that's been said, that's all that has been bullied. because these companies and these institutions have gotten away with flaunting the law for years without any pushback. Now that there's pushback, oh, you're being bullied. No, you're being pointed to existing law and saying, if you do not follow the law, there will be consequences. Which is an amazing concept, I know.
And what we really should be saying is, well, if they can dictate and determine what happens with DEI.
You mean like the Civil Rights Act of 1964? If they can dictate what is happening with DEI, when DEI violates existing law, yes, they can dictate. Because it wasn't a dictator that put it into place. It was a president and a civil rights movement in the 60s.
What's the next thing?
What's the next thing? I don't know. Following the law?
That, the administration or just moving away from democracy and rule of law.
Moving away from democracy and rule of law. How did the Civil Rights Act get put into place? Democratic representation, voting it into and the president signed it right in front of Martin Luther King Jr. Rule of law. Lady. Title VI, Title VII, the Supreme Court decision on affirmative action regarding Title VI and the 14th Amendment. Rule of law. You seemingly either have no idea about or do not care for the rule of law if you're pushing DEI as a good thing. Are you kidding me?
Is going to do, right? But when you look at the fundamental DNA of that organization and
of the DNA of Target
and other retail organizations, they fully understand that their management and their talent and their workforce has to mirror their communities.
And by what mechanism do you recommend companies achieve that goal? Their workforce and their management has to mirror their communities. Okay, so the racial demographics of the geographical territory that a Target store resides in, those should be the quota and the hiring goals for that Target store. I mean, I don't know what else you are recommending than the implementation of racial and gender quota systems in hiring and promotions. Now, think about that notion. Think about Title VI. Think about Title VII specifically in that regard. What do you say to that? Does anybody at the table have even the mildest notion of at least Title VII in this conversation specifically?
Yeah.
They know that. It's just really difficult to do right now.
I think we're looking for rationality. Data will not make a human rational.
Data will not make a human rational. You just showed a chart showing Target's numbers dropping through the floor before Trump took office and blaming Trump for Target's woes. I don't know how I could be more rational.
Right. And I think this is a lot of what we're seeing, in the face of very good data, in the face of history, in the face of just common sense.
Could have fooled me.
Capitalism.
Capitalism. Uh-oh, is that a bad thing?
This doesn't make any sense.
Capitalism doesn't make any sense to a bunch of CEOs sitting around a table.
And so I think.
What about money? What about, increase
Yeah, but the
in-
short-term money,
Yeah.
the short-term
Yeah.
money is not big for these guys at all.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean,
The short-term money is not big for these guys at all. What do you mean?
But what about
all you got to
long
do
term?
is survive a couple of quarters. Right? This is a lot of thought. By the way, rightfully, that's right.
I don't even know what's going on now.
Rightfully so. I mean, I don't want them all to kind of run into the breach and get shot down as in their way in. They have to be longer planners, and so
You don't want them, the companies. What are you talking about?
I don't actually blame Target as much for their short-term actions as I would blame them for not rolling it back the other direction if they don't do that.
You don't blame Target for their short-term actions. So, when the racial reckoning was ascendant, when the post-George Floyd mania was all over the place, and Target bends over backwards and jumps through hoops to play up on that virtue signaling, and nothing happened because there was no pushback. And then 2022, and here's my suspicion about a lot of this stuff. It had nothing to do so much with Trump, although he supercharged it when he came into office. Really what it came down to was, and I've said this for years now, when the case before the Supreme Court came up that challenged affirmative action, and the lawyers in defense of affirmative action made their case before the court in the fall, I believe it was the fall of 2022, and their argument to the court was the argument to diversity. That, amongst anything else that happened thereafter, was the light switch that started everything down a downward path for these companies and these organizations, because it was the writing was on the wall. If the Supreme Court ruled against affirmative action, and with the conservative majority on the court, it was pretty likely they would, depending on how severe their ruling was. If the argument in defense of affirmative action was the argument to diversity, the same argument that underpins all of DEI in the corporate realm, then there was a serious threat to any organization and their ability to defend themselves legally against claims of discrimination in the diversity realm if the Supreme Court found that affirmative action was unconstitutional and the diversity argument failed to defend it. And that's what happened. So in late 2022, I think companies and the legal teams therein knew that something was coming and things could go very badly very quickly. And so that's when you started to see budgets being cut. You started seeing positions being renamed or moved around, and programs being discontinued or defunded. You know, that plus the fact that at that point there was no demonstrable return on investment. So I'm honestly very surprised that with a collection of individuals around a table, all who have been in this stuff for years, that nothing of a, hey, what about the legal rulings? What about the legal precedent surrounding this? Is anyone, especially the moderator, going to ask about possible conflicts with the Civil Rights Act and DEI?
I ran a company, as you know.
Yes.
It's not easy this is not easy to do. As loud a voice as we are, as loud a voice as we are, there are louder voices from governments, from people who don't agree.
Like the law?
So you have to play to all of them. So I forgive them.
You forgive them? You're talking about the businesses. You're talking about you're forgiving the businesses for capitulating to civil rights laws. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I don't forgive them if they literally continue to practice this bad behavior.
What bad behavior?
They have to take a step back, and they've done that. I don't know all of the Target story.
You don't know all the Target story, but you forgive them.
But they also know that the facts show that,
foot traffic's down, sales
that's right,
are down.
So and if
Foot traffic's down, sales are down. All because anti-DEI?
they don't adjust to
gotta
that,
adjust
then
to
you just
that.
call them silly, right?
Yeah, and
tell them to close. We don't need
And by
them
the
that
way,
much.
this is
Tell them to close. We don't need them that much. What?
across
Yeah, I was
corporate
going to say
America.
it's
That's right, it's not only exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay, and now we have a card up says Bloomberg, Walmart, McDonald's, Accenture, and the art of the DEI rollback memo. Ah, Accenture. My earliest, one of my earliest videos on DEI, or before it was called DEI religiously. Yeah, why are they rolling back DEI?
And they're being targeted.
Companies that practice discrimination in hiring and promotions are liable for examination under law.
Yeah, but that's the danger zone when you come out with corporate values.
When you come out with corporate values, that's the danger. Oh, okay. Again, how is it? Are they being intentionally obtuse here, or are they just so in the tank on this they cannot imagine the counterpoint?
So is it better not to say it than to behave in a different way? Just live it and live what this is what young people see. They're not living their values.
What are you talking? Moderator, please, in some way, fulfill the role of your title. Bring this around to a point. Get to an actual question.
So was it a mistake for some of these corporations to come out and make these declarations?
I think.
Was it a mistake for these corporations to come out and make these declarations? You mean declarations of winding down DEI?
We got to look at the foundation or the reason why they did it in the first place.
Okay, why? Yes, why did they do it?
George Floyd's murder.
George Floyd's murder, which has nothing to do with how corporations work, but people sure use that event to make a point, I guess.
Was horrific.
Well, he wasn't murdered, first and foremost, but okay.
We remember the level of protest that was going on, not just here in America, but outside this country.
Yes, and what does George Floyd's murder have to do with the products on the shelves of Target? And I'm using the George Floyd's murder for the purposes of their usage here. What does that have to do with what products go on Target shelves? What does that have to do with how people are hired at McDonald's? What did that have to do with DEI running rampant years before George Floyd died?
And so they responded to their consumers. And
no, they responded to the ESG, the Black Rocks, and so on, pushing this. They saw an opportunity to make hay off of a corpse and virtue signal all over the place. And how did that go? How did that last? What happened with all the promises of billions of dollars into these programs?
Their consumer sentiment. They weren't responding because their values told them that they needed to do something different.
Oh. So they were making a calculated business decision in the moment. Okay, well, if they're making a calculated business decision in the moment, then the weather vane can go the other direction pretty quick, right?
And then I think they figured it out, right?
What's that?
I'll throw money at the problem.
The problem, whatever the problem was in relation to a guy that died of a drug overdose in Minneapolis. Uh-huh.
And that's what they did.
Yes. Yeah, they made a bunch of promises of billions of dollars into new programs and DEI stuff. Yes.
And then when the political climate changed.
No, when the return on investment was obvious. Again, take a look at when everything started to go downhill. George Floyd was 2020. 2021, 2022, 2023, affirmative action gets knocked out. All of this happened before Trump came in. And if you want to call the downfall of affirmative action the change in political climate, okay. As in, now you don't have as much of a defense against consequences from the law as you did a day before, maybe.
They pulled back.
Uh-huh.
And many of them actually never. They made statements, but never actually committed to dollars to those causes that they said that they were going to fund.
It's true. It's true. Because it became pretty clear pretty quick that it was a waste of money And they may be tempting fate with the law, which they always had been. So,
even in the world of finance, I know we were picking on Target for a while, but we had major Wall Street banks, Goldman Sachs coming out saying we're going to loan more to minority-owned businesses. And
yes, as Goldman Sachs had some very ridiculously discriminatory financial rules for a while there. Imagine if Goldman Sachs had said, we're going to preference white businesses or male-run businesses.
Invest more in minority-owned businesses, invest more in venture funds and private equity funds run by
all those
minorities.
Programs are now gone.
Why? Why?
All the chief diversity officers are now gone.
Why? What underpins this specifically?
And they recognize that the IRS, the Justice Department, the SEC, and all the other agencies at the bequest of this administration can be turned against them.
I'm in the absence of any other information, I'm honestly starting to believe that nobody at this table is aware of Title VI or Title VII. I know I'm a broken record on this, but those two titles within the Civil Rights Act of 1964 are fundamental to the question here. If you are a business that in any way, shape, or form is the beneficiary of federal financial assistance, i.e., contracts, grants, subsidies that come from the federal government, you are bound by Title VI to not have any racially discriminatory programs or activities. Because if you do and are caught doing so, you could have all of that money terminated. And when it comes to government contracts, that's a lot of money. It's the law. It's the federal government finally, seemingly, defending pre-existing law. I'm still waiting for serious consequences to befall a major corporation, something that's going to draw a line and says, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. But simply the threat that the federal government could actually enforce existing law is the issue here. You think this is just Donald Trump? Oh, well, today I've decided I'm going to target, no pun intended, all these companies without cause, without justification, without any kind of legal backing, because I just hate black people. That's seemingly the line here.
It's not a request. It's not a request.
You're right, it's not a request. The law is not a request. It's the law!
It's a structured law.
Yes! Yes! The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is a structured law. You're right! And?
Set of laws.
Yes. And what is those set of laws? Don't say the executive orders. The executive orders are not a set of laws. And all the executive orders should have been doing is reminding everybody of the existence of Civil Rights Act.
Some of them have been changed.
What are you talking about?
They better do it. It's called
What are you talking about?
total rule. I mean, they got to do it.
What are you talking about?
Although, in fairness to a lot of the companies, I would say the George Floyd tragedy was an affront to many of their values. And
George Floyd OD'd on the street, dude. Yeah. Drug use, drug addiction, strong-armed robberies. Yeah, I'm sure this was an affront to their values, but that's not what you mean, is it?
And the values of their employees.
Yeah, because, the employees at Target have a lot to do with even if you go with the narrative that the police department is responsible for George Floyd's death, what does the actions of the police department in Minneapolis have to do with the employees at Target, or at PricewaterhouseCoopers, or at Microsoft, or at Google?
And constituents. And so there was that support. I think what they found, though, you often can very quickly have a reflex response. We're going to do this. And then they realize it requires more work than just saying we're going to do this.
What requires more work? What problem were they attempting to solve on the basis of George Floyd's death? What did promising a whole bunch of money to people on the basis of their race have to do with solving for George Floyd's death? I mean, everything else aside, I've never understood the logic of what that was supposed to mean.
It requires a lot of time to make sure you outreach, have a staff.
Oh, over in the chat. Thank you, Keeverdam, for in multiples. Let me get it right here. There we go. Guys, now, as I forgot to do myself, up in the chat box is a link to Blood Cancer United's donation page. Please take a look at that and donate if you can. Or if even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. Also, hi, Keeverdam. Good morning. Yes, unplanned stream. Early in the morning. I forgot that bit. I apologize. Also, Jay Blizza. Wrong stripe, he OD'd on fentanyl. Pardon me. Asan, Alabama of Colorado. The Venn diagram on the point and what they're saying has no overlap. I'm trying to decipher this. I really am.
To follow up, to provide the opportunities, identify the partners, and that's where I think a lot of it fell apart. And then we suddenly ran into a period, as we are in today, where it is no longer even acceptable, but it causes more complications.
Again, the descent of DEI did not start with the Trump administration. Your own chart, Bloomberg's own chart, as one anecdotal example in Target's fortunes and their own intent to say that this is DEI's performance, shows that. This all started to go downhill around 2022. You guys keep trying to lean on Donald Trump as the big enemy in all of this. The corporate world was already divesting themselves from DEI before Trump came into office because they could see what was coming. Not from Trump, although that might be part of it, but because of the legal wins. The threat, the honest and came to be threat to affirmative action as a cover, the argument to diversity as a cover.
Right.
To follow up on those programs than otherwise would have.
But one point you made, Ursula, about this idea of not really blaming the companies. You understand kind of where they're coming from. Did all of you buy into those messages when we were hearing them in 2020 and 2021?
Yeah. I'm not here to defend these companies.
You're not here to defend these companies. So, as long as they do what you want them to do, as long as they are hiring or giving shelf space to the kinds of people you want them to, that's fine. Okay, then what are you here for then, I guess? I'm
You know, at the end of the day, I can make some choices about where I spend my money.
Yes, you can. Will you choose to spend your money at places that preference one skin color over another? Can we think about that notion for a second?
Where I shop, etc. And we should all do that, which we actually don't. But
we don't. We don't choose where we spend our money. Okay.
But we should all do that. Me as a consumer, I should be talking to Target as well.
About what?
And I think that running a company is not easy.
You just said that a minute ago.
But I'm not even discussing. I'm discussing us a little bit. For
us who
get all of this thing called Target, there are individuals who run these places. They have to stand and say, guys, I don't agree with this.
Agree with what?
It's not easy to do. And I may have to follow this rule.
This rule, this law?
because the IRS is going to come get me if I don't.
I have to follow this rule under, I don't even know what they're mentioning with the IRS, but okay, I have to follow this rule under the tax code. Dang it.
But I don't believe or support the actions that this individual or this agency or this approach to business is taking.
Okay. And so?
We've lost all of that. That voice.
What? What?
When I was running Xerox, I couldn't represent 100,000 employees in Xerox. I guarantee you 50,000 of them probably agreed with me and the other 50,000 didn't.
When you were running Xerox, okay, I didn't know that she had ever run Xerox. They gave us very little background on our speakers except their current roles, I guess, at the beginning. Okay, so you were running Xerox, and 50,000 people agreed with you and 50,000 people didn't, but they all still kept coming back to work because it was their job. And?
So I basically have to kind of ride the middle.
Welcome to the wonderful world of leadership. Some people agree with your decisions, some people don't. And?
But I, Ursula Burns, have a set of beliefs. I have a voice. We've lost the braveness of them saying we have to fund DEI programs. We have to support them in other ways, even if I can't do it this way.
Them. My kingdom for a specific example.
We have to support them in other ways because they are important.
What is DEI programs are important? Why? Why? Show me the evidence that they are important. What is their goal? What is their end point? These things were going on in the absence of Donald Trump. The downturn in DEI investment happened under Biden.
Yeah. We've lost all the voice.
Yeah.
And I am disappointed in that, right? So we're going to have this struggle until we can convert everybody to actual rule of law, just government.
Rule of law. Lady, I'm sorry. How does DEI align with the rule of law of Title VII? Setting aside Title VI, just Title VII, just hiring practices in general. You are disallowed from discriminating and hiring on the basis of race under the rule of law. DEI programs promote what again? The other lady said the companies and the businesses have to reflect the communities they serve, literally. How do these two ideas run parallel to each other and not contradict each other?
Racial equality.
Right.
You don't want racial equality, you want racial preference.
Gender equality. We're nowhere near that.
Yeah.
No, you want gender parity. Equality under law, we've got it. You want everything to be 50-50 or more somehow.
All I want to make sure is that the people who are on this side, that on either side have a fair voice. And right now, they do not.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk about having a fair voice? Let's talk about being able to say what you wanted to say or ask the questions you wanted to ask. Oh, I don't know, circa 2020 through 2023. On this platform, just as one example.
Lisa, you were running a company at the time that this happened at Talem, and you put out a letter to your employees addressing this issue, and it was a call to action.
Okay, for those of you listening at home, there's now a quote on the screen. Quote, "I am more resolute than ever in the need for our community, ... to do our part to ensure that our values are reflected in the communities where we learn, work, and live," unquote. Lisa Wardell, May 31st, 2020, so just a few days after George Floyd's death. Okay.
Was it not?
Yes.
How was that received?
My call to action, and I think this is apropos for today, was let's talk about it, right?
Talk about what?
We had, and then many companies did, let's have a town hall. Let's talk about this. We had
I'm assuming you mean George Floyd without any other clarification.
the town hall, and the rule was you could ask me anything. And then I went further and said, we need to be able to collect the data, back to the data around how having diverse management, we did not have a diverse management across all 5 of our institutions.
What do you mean by did not have diverse management? I know it's a dumb question. It's a simple question to ask, but every time that it's brought up, I really want to know. When you say your management was not diverse, what do you mean?
How do we measure that?
How do you measure? I don't know. How did you measure that? How did you measure the diversity of your management?
The call to action to my team was to make sure not only hire diverse people, Black.
You just said that your management across your 5 areas or whatever was not diverse. That sounds to me like you're outlining a problem that needs to be solved. And so your solution to solving for this problem was what now? Sorry.
To be able to collect the data, back to the data around how having diverse management, we did not have a diverse management across all 5 of our institutions.
Did not have diverse management across all 5 of our institutions.
How do we measure that? And
how do you measure that?
And the call to action to my team was to make sure not only hire diverse people, Black, brown, women, but are you making sure that you're looking at the very best universe of people that are.
Okay. If that last sentiment was all you were focused on, I'd have nothing to say. But you predicated that with not just that you're hiring diverse people. So, there was a filtration system. We're going to exclude swaths of possible candidates for jobs on the basis of their race and their gender. And then what remains, we'll pick the best. That way, we get the best of this group that we've created, but who already fall into the desired demographics because we filtered out all the unwanteds. I've said it before. If you take a DEI defender and you let them talk long enough, they will eventually tell you the truth.
That are qualified, and it's just not possible that universe is all white males. And
I rest my case.
that changed a lot of the dialogue within the organization. But what I will tell you is we had diversity in our DNA from the very beginning.
No, you didn't. You just said that there was no diverse leadership in your 5 different departments. You had to engineer that. You said you had a call to action. And you were explicitly discriminating against white men in favor of anybody who didn't fall into those 2 demographics. But the best of the crop from what remained. I mean, if they're... Yeah, I can't speak to the statute of limitations, but if I was someone who had been trying to get a job at her company or trying to get a promotion within her company at that time and I heard her saying this, boy, oh boy, sounds like lawsuit territory to me.
I think the companies that rolled back quickly or may have gotten in trouble, this was, to your point, this was their, maybe not first time, but they took these big strides and then realized just how difficult it is.
Yeah, it's really difficult when you take a big stride across the rule of law and then get caught or called out for it. To
ingrain that into your organization.
I just think in all of this talk, we're talking about rollbacks and contractions and all of that. In executive search, these are people.
Of everybody at the table so far, I forget her name, and I don't know what she's about to say. But everything that you said up to this point has been basically just word salad pablum. Just nothing, just sort of stuff. Let's see if that changes.
These are life-changing moments for executives of color. I've negotiated many comp packages where the equity stake will change their whole life. Intergenerational wealth is.
And so?
Being built in a lot of these opportunities, which is why I do what I do.
You do what you do specifically to enrich Black people?
This is earned success and ascent.
Is it? You're... Why put a racial qualifier on any of it if it's earned? Why make the focus of your success a racial preference if it's about merit?
And then to sort of have it just, just pulled away.
What? So you are now disallowed from making a Black person an executive? Excuse me. What?
I think it is really cruel and it's really harsh. And so when we talk about, the companies making decisions and I always think about the human behind that decision who.
If you're hiring the best people and you're investing in them the powers of the executive office or whatever else, how are you being disallowed from doing that now? What is preventing you from hiring the best person for the job and making them an executive with generational wealth, etc.? How have you been prevented from doing that?
Who is now in a riff, who doesn't get the calls anymore or what have you. And, just again, thinking about who's listening to us here, what we can share with them that you did deserve it and there will be something else. There has to be that continuity.
There will be something else because they're Black? You brought up the racial element to this. What are you talking about?
In what we share.
I've been doing this now almost 36 years.
36 years? Okay. That's a long time.
And my first job was at Shearson Lehman Hutton. And one of the first people I met when I got there was Chris. And Chris had ahead of him Frank Shepard and George Haywood. And
I assume these are names that I would recognize if I was in big business or something.
Mentorship was a really big deal. And what these guys taught me, and women, because I had, people like Wanda Hinton as well advising me.
Name dropping,
was that I had to outsmart, I had to outwork, I had to outmaneuver, never walk into a room and have a spontaneous conversation with someone who doesn't look like me.
Never walk into a room and have a spontaneous conversation with someone who doesn't look like me. Golly, that sounds utterly bizarre.
Lived on a battlefield. There was all these
in big business and finance, you lived on a battlefield? Wow, I bet it was very unique to your situation.
Rules that they gave me, and I followed them for a really long time.
And then?
And I would say they led to my survival at times, but they also led to my success.
Okay, so there was never a downside. Walk into a room, you see an Asian man, don't talk to that person. I mean, admittedly, I have never existed in the, and I don't know exactly what business he's talking about. I'm guessing high finance, corporate something or other. I don't know. But I've never existed specifically, directly in the, the high finance corporate shark world of things. So maybe these rules do make some sort of sense in the politics and the mentality of high finance. But that one in particular, Don't strike up a spontaneous conversation with anyone who doesn't look like you. I don't know. That doesn't sound very inclusive.
But post George Floyd, when I saw my kids out there in the streets, you know, I had
your kids who, I'm guessing, based on your 36 years in business, are doing pretty well and had some pretty major advantages over a lot of other kids in the world.
to look back on my career and think about the number of times that I swept something under the carpet.
Like what?
That I just turned my head, that I let it roll off my back.
Like what?
Because I knew that these earnings were game-changing.
Okay, so you struggled and it was a battlefield and you fought and you won. And now you are a 36-year deep corporate CEO. I'm guessing you have multi-millions of dollars. I'm just going to guess. I don't know who this person is, but he was talking about major wealth and everything else. And along the way, some things that you didn't like happened that you swept under the rug, and yet here you are. You know, I don't know if you know this. Lots of people find themselves in awkward situations or hearing untoward things being said that are just things being said. And you just move on with your day. Short of a crime being committed or an actual rule being broken. But I don't know what you're talking about, so I don't know the severity of what it is that you've decided to help cover up all these years.
But I had to wake up and realize that, okay, your kids are good.
I would hope so. And even if you weren't a rich CEO, I would hope that your kids are good.
There's a whole lot of other kids out there in the world that aren't going to be good.
This is true. Everybody's lives are different. And so, did you help start a charity with your connections and wealth? What?
Unless you stand up and do something.
Okay, and you did what?
It had to be about people and profits, not just profits.
Okay, and you did what?
But you kind of had to do the first part first to give you the credibility to do that.
To get the resources and
the
to feel
resources
comfortable.
and the credibility. Yes.
What are you guys talking about?
Taking the risk.
Right.
Let's face it, you're taking.
To do what? Okay, George Floyd dies, you look at your kids, and you see the contrast and comparison between his growing up versus your kids' advantages and everything else, and then you did what?
Taking risk.
But before you said, I'm not sure why we're sitting here. For me,
I don't know why you're sitting there either. You've accomplished nothing and you've said nothing of substance.
Same thing. 3 easy reasons. I have
Your kids?
a 24, almost 25-year-old in the workforce. I have a 23-year-old who just graduated who's going in the workforce, and a younger daughter. And I can't afford to not have these conversations.
What are you talking about?
Because, you know, I have 2 Black men in the workforce that
Yes.
are at the beginning of what you're talking about.
And so without DEI, they would not be able to succeed? What is that the message here?
But in answer to your question, though, where you say, are we there because we have the best performance or because we're Black?
Okay, maybe I missed something. When did the moderator ask that question?
It's a combination. We are
What?
who we are.
Yeah, and what does your skin color have to do with the quality of your output? Please, oh, tell me true. What does one's skin color have to say about the quality of one's work or work ethic?
I just think that the question is BS. We've never been racially equal.
We've never been racially equal. So the salve for this wound is to not be racially equal. is to have preferential treatment based on race.
And we're talking like, well, do you think that they're looking at you like they're black? The only way that they can look at you is the way that we've been taught to look at it.
Right.
I mean,
You, as far as I can tell from this conversation, you want to be assessed first and foremost on your race. You don't want a world where people don't look at race as something to value, where race is an irrelevancy. You want people to assess you first and foremost as someone who deserves special treatment, who has been a generational victim, and needs special help. Otherwise, why are you defending DEI? You can't have it both ways. You want to be identified by your race. I would prefer a world where we didn't have racial identitarianism as a factor in any considerations about ourselves. But what utopia am I thinking of? Because racial identitarianism is poison, regardless of what race you're talking about. But okay.
I mean, it's how you feel being a woman. I feel like Ursula Burns being a woman. How do I feel being black? I feel like Ursula Burns. Everybody else who looks at me feels as though, I guarantee you, you don't have a right to be here.
Right.
Everyone who looks at you thinks that you don't have a right to be here. That's your projection. I feel sorry for you if you exist in that bubble of paranoia and accusation. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
You are here because you're black. If we think
You told us that you benefited from programs that preferenced black people. You told us in your own opening statements that this was the case. And as I said, it is a double-edged sword of the first 30-some-odd years after the Civil Rights Act, where in trying to make up for lost time and trying to fix some of what was done wrong in the past, preferential programs were put into place. And again, by the law, they were contradicting it. On a moral basis, it made sense. But I don't know what to tell you. If you have benefited from programs that gave you an advantage for something that has nothing to do with your talents or your merit, there will always be a question about whether or not you could have risen on your own 2 feet instead of being held up. I don't know. That is the rub, as they say. So aren't we better off now in a world that is moving away from that kind of thinking? So there doesn't have to be any question. There doesn't have to be any doubt about why someone achieved the position that they did. That we don't have preferential programs based on race or gender. Or, I mean, we still do, but that there's finally some pushback to them.
that is not in the root. By the way, in who we are, but who they are, then we're BSing ourselves.
Does that hurt? I mean, even
no,
today.
No, it doesn't hurt. It is.
Did it hurt in the past?
Not really for me.
Okay.
It didn't hurt. You sound like you're hurt. You sound like you're bitter.
I literally, this justification, we are a racist, sexist society.
You had no problem with the lady across from you talking about how they had to work away from white men in business and hiring. You didn't say a word.
This country was built on the back of young people, women, immigrants, black people.
Uh-huh.
That's how we got here. Now, I don't want us to go back and keep blaming them.
Blaming them. Who's them? By the way, just out of curiosity, who's them? Are you talking about the historical long dead individuals that enacted those crimes? Who's them?
I just want them to get out of our way at this point.
My chair is on one of those plastic carpet guard things, and it just will like slide and roll when I don't want it to. So I gotta like twist the wheels around a little bit to get a little bit of stability. Pardon me. Anyway, that is an amazing statement. That is an amazing statement. Between the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and all legislation, both federal and state, that has occurred since then, in the way of DEI that has been ascendant and persistent since, and this is just from I know it's probably gone on longer, but at least in its own branding since at least 2015. You just want them to get out of your way. You are a wealthy CEO. You ran Xerox. For crying out loud. Lady.
I don't want to have to justify the fact that we can perform equally. We are just people.
Yes. Well, I also hate to tell you this. When it comes to big business, when it comes to your daily work life, I constantly have to justify my place in my job. By doing my job, when I am posed with an assignment or a question or a challenge in some way, I have to justify my place in the company by doing my job. And here's the thing. I guess I have the benefit of not having received my job in any way, shape, or form through a preferential program based on race. Now, at the time that you benefited from such programs, again, it's this double-edged catch-22 sort of territory, where I understand the ethical nature of such programs, given what had happened in the decades and decades and decades prior, and in the aftermath of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. But you cannot deny, and this is what Clarence Thomas had talked about himself. He wished he had never, ever assented to or gotten involved in anything that gave him preferential treatment on the basis of his race, because that question mark followed him forever. And still does. So, I mean, you benefited from those programs, and, you know, it's just the nature of the beast. If there was a program that preferenced white people for a particular job, you wouldn't have any suspicion about somebody in that position simply on the basis of their race? You know, and everything you've done throughout your entire career may be completely legitimate. And for the sake of argument, I won't doubt it. But the fact remains, but you just have to live with it. And, you know, in the years since, I'm assuming your continued ascension through the ranks proved that there was doubt to that idea. Okay, you haven't let it go, and you're still holding account people on the basis of their race as enemies. Because of slavery? Today?
Citizens, get out of our way.
You are a rich CEO.
Give us an education.
You got an education.
Access to health care.
You have access to health care.
Like everybody else has.
Okay, I dollars to donuts. I do not have access to health care the same as she does. I will bet you all the money in my pocket, and I've got none, that I do not have the same access to health care that she does. Dollar by dollar. Insurance payment by insurance payment. I will bet you.
And we can move forward.
But part of this also is that we will spin our wheels and talk about this stuff and try and answer the unanswerable when it's...
Answer the unanswerable. Did I hear that right? Answer the unanswerable?
Our wheels and talk about this stuff and
That's what
try and answer the unanswerable when it's already answered.
Right.
We got
That is an interesting affectation.
to pick our heads up, but we also got to stick our necks out.
For sure.
To do what? The moderator is not moderating anything here. It's just stream of consciousness.
But I'm not hating the people who are also taking a different road during this time, sort of consolidating their power, dealing with people that they want to deal with,
Do you have an example of what you're talking about?
doing business with people they trust, and not looking for affirmation outside of themselves. So I think
Like who? What? God damn.
this is another moment where it's like, okay, so who are you going to look to affirm ourselves? We look inside first, and then stop looking for anyone else to care.
What? I honestly have no idea what is even being spoken of right now. You want to affirm yourselves? You want somebody to pat you on the back for what?
That's sort of where I'm at.
This is where I tell you, sis, this is where I am at. I am the same place.
What same?
Okay, if we can get people on our bandwagon, all for it.
Great.
Come on, let's go. But I am tired of answering these questions like, do you feel, I don't care.
What? God. I'm tired of asking these questions like, do you feel? I don't care. What question? What question are you being asked that you're tired of being asked? What?
I mean, really don't care.
My therapist helps work that out.
That's right. Exactly.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank whoever it is that
Exactly.
helps you with this. Our point here is that
I would love to know what your point is here. Is this just 45 minutes of no moderation and half-finished sentences and thoughts and just a general frustration? Again, and it is amazing to me that earlier on, the one guy reminded everybody at the table, hey, we've all had storybook careers. We're all ridiculously wealthy CEOs.
that there are also the people who don't look anything like us, that have a responsibility too.
Oh, what responsibility does someone have based on what they look like?
Yeah.
Let's make sure that they carry some of that weight.
What weight do people that don't look like you are responsible to carry?
We're helping them.
There are a lot of people looking at some of the hires that we've seen.
Yes, let's get back to the bare bones of this. Hiring and promotion practices, the root of the problem with DEI.
In this current government administration.
The hiring and promotion practices were questionable before this administration took over.
And kind of asking whether those people were even qualified, at the same time pointing at Lisa Cook or Susan Rice or someone like that and saying that, they're DEI hires despite their accomplishments.
Well, here's the thing. What is a DEI hire? And if they were a DEI hire, why is that a bad thing? If someone says, was it Lisa Cook? Whoever. She was a DEI hire. You guys want DEI to exist. Why is that an insult? If DEI and what it does is pure and genuine and good, why is calling someone a DEI hire a pejorative that you have to defend against?
I asked you whether stuff like that hurts, and I would have to think to a certain extent, it's got to hurt sometimes, right?
Why does it hurt? If DEI is a pure good, then anybody being hired because they fit a DEI program, it shouldn't even be a question for you guys to have to ponder. Right? Or am I missing something?
Right?
Oh my God, if this is not an anomaly,
Yeah.
then I'm more than hurt, I'm pissed.
Okay.
Right? If
Do you
this
think
is
it's an anomaly?
I hope like hell that it is.
What is an anomaly?
Because in all of the badness in our modern times, not in the Jim Crow or enslaved people past.
Which you just dropped the responsibility on people today a moment ago, by the way.
We've had some rule base that made sense. I mean, they didn't follow it all the time. It's all gone now.
What are you talking about?
Literally unskilled, unqualified people who are just associated with other people who can run major departments of our government should not be allowed.
Really? You want to talk about the Biden administration? Do you have any examples from the Biden administration of people who were in positions of authority that decidedly did not deserve to be there and did not have the qualifications? Anybody you'd like to mention from the Biden administration?
And if it's not an anomaly, we are not the worst people that are going to suffer here because we know how to suffer. I tell you, the people out there don't know how to suffer.
People out there don't know how to suffer.
If this is the way we're going to play the game, where it doesn't matter what the hell you've done in the past, what skill set you have, it only matters how much money you have and what friends you have.
Tell me what the mechanical difference is between that and a race-based preference system. It doesn't matter what skills you have. It doesn't matter which education you have. It just matters that you're the correct race. You're the correct gender. Okay? DEI is nepotism of the demographic variety. It's not so much about who you know or who you're related to. It's whether or not you fit the correct aesthetic. How are these two things fundamentally any different? Giving preferential treatment to someone on the basis of elements that have nothing to do with their merit. You decry nepotism? Then why do you defend DEI?
No one in this country is prepared. Not enough people in this country are prepared for that kind of rule set.
DEI is the rule set.
If the people aren't looking at us saying we are the canary in the coal mine, right? We're yelling, but they're going to have to yell too, then I think we're in trouble.
It does hurt, and I'll tell you why.
Tell me why.
Of course it hurts.
Because
it hurts.
It hurts. So tell me about your pain and your struggle, rich CEO.
When I started my career in investment banking.
Okay, so I wasn't quite sure. Okay, so investment banking.
There was a whole bunch of us.
Who's us?
I looked around 3 or 4 years later, and 70% of us were gone.
Okay, I can only assume by us you mean black people? 70% of us were gone. Okay. And what do you attribute to this sudden drop in population of your preferred skin color?
And every year that I continued to do what I was doing, I watched more and more of us walk away.
Why? Or in your opinion, why?
Not necessarily get fired or asked to leave, just walk away.
Why?
So yeah, it hurt.
What? Okay. You can't make a statement like that and not explain what you think happened. Walk away because a better job came up elsewhere, because they burnt out in investment banking, because the entire system was racist and yet you sit at the top of the pile somehow? What are you talking about?
Watching some of our very own people, our friends, people we cared about.
Simply on the basis of their race?
Get pushed out of the industry.
Why? Because they were black?
Because they just couldn't take it anymore.
Take what?
But what I will say is that it hurts in a different way, in that you have so few examples of success at our level. And
you have so few examples of success at our level. you have a roundtable of rich black CEOs and executives. I mean, anecdotally speaking, I have looked at many things like this over the years. But if you're talking about proportionally to the population demographics, not quite sure what you mean.
There's no real means of amplifying that. I feel like for
What?
all the success that
Wait. There's no real means of amplifying. Sorry, I'm backing up. I want to make sure I didn't mishear this here.
level, and there's no real means of amplifying that. I feel like,
You know, I cannot count how many times I have been told over and over and over again, just as one example, here's the racial demographics of Fortune 500 CEOs. In TEDx after TEDx, in corporate presentation after corporate presentation, panel discussion after panel discussion, just as one overriding example, the racial makeup of Fortune 500 CEOs, the gender makeup of Fortune 500 CEOs, the name makeup of Fortune 500 CEOs. Oh, you know, there are more CEOs named Peter, Paul, David, and Mark than there are women or black people or anything else. I'm sorry, and again, maybe I obviously exist in sort of a marinating bubble on this subject matter, so I'm an exception, not a rule. But as far as there being ways in which the idea that there are fewer black CEOs or executives out there as compared to other racial demographics, that has been part and parcel of this quote-unquote conversation for at least a decade. And it is brought up over and over and over again. So I honestly do not know what you are talking about.
there's no real means of amplifying that. I feel like for all the success that those of us around this table have had, there are so many people that have not been able to travel the path.
Yeah, like me. But are you talking about people divided up on the basis of race by any chance?
And there are so many kids out there who don't know that there is this path.
Maybe they have to find it for themselves like you did? Even in worse times, like you said, you've been doing this for 36 years. I'll concede it was probably a heck of a lot worse 36 years ago. It's the same now? Okay, well, what are you doing with all of your power and wealth to change that? You seem to imply you were inspired to do something before.
It's interesting because I think it's good that even among this table, we all have different ways of viewing and dealing with our experiences.
Gosh, almost like you're all individual people with individual histories and perspectives, and not some kind of hive mind.
For me, I try not to even acknowledge the hurt part. It has nothing to do with anything.
The hurt part, okay.
I am going to constantly try to convert to what is the opportunity, what is the objective performance data that will hopefully allow me to achieve most of what I'm trying to achieve.
Well, that sounds very individualistic and, taking the initiative. Okay. What does any of that have to do with race?
I think it's okay to acknowledge hurt.
Boy, we really are in just one giant therapy session. A bunch of rich CEOs sitting around a table lamenting about the fact that how they got to where they're at wasn't easy. I'll concede. I assume there had to be a whole lot of hard work and sacrifice and struggle. in running a business, in starting a business. I have friends and family who have gone through similar things before. You're hurt. Well, I can only hope that the giant bed of cash you go to sleep on every night can salve that wound.
It's how you deal with that hurt.
Yeah.
Right? Do you deal with it in a constructive way, or do you deal with it in a destructive way?
Okay, well, how are you guys dealing with your hurt in a constructive way that doesn't simply turn around and say, we need to give special treatment to people on the basis of their race?
What is the constructive way?
You get up every day and you figure out how to fight.
Fight for what are you fighting? You've made it to the top. You are a he hasn't given us his bank balance, but I am assuming you are a multi-million-dollar investment banker. I mean, it is a struggle to continue to have to justify your existence in your job by continuing to do your job. I know. But other than that.
But you figure out how to do it in an intelligent, calculating way.
To do.
You figure out what your contribution can be. Stop thinking about the problem. What can your contribution be?
Okay. And again, I come back to it, and I haven't, unless my brain has gone sideways. I have not heard a single example from anybody at the table about specifically what their company or a company that they were involved in at one point, what their company has done in regards to DEI, specifically. Like, what was your program? What were your criteria? The closest that we got was the one lady in the middle over there talking about how none of her management teams were diverse and that her call to action wasn't just to hire people on the basis of their race, but also that they were the best people. That's as close as we've gotten here. And even that said nothing about actually achieving some kind of success as a result. Just that was the mandate. Hire people on the basis of their race first, or their gender, and then we'll select the best of the bunch. Now, did that lead to increased profits all by itself? Dunno. And if it did, is it really something you'd want to brag about? We're 31 minutes into this thing, 47 minutes of the deal. I've got half an hour left.
To the solution. Because all of us can do something.
Yeah.
Whether it's bringing one kid in as an intern, whether
because of their race,
it's stroking a check to some nonprofit.
Because of the racial association.
That's focused on, career development and young people.
Just young people, full stop.
Whether it's serving on the board of a local school board. I mean, there's something that we can all do.
What would you do on a local school board to affect the change you want to see specifically?
To change this situation. And to me, it's that hurt that gets me up every day and makes me want to fight.
How are you hurt by what? I really don't want to get into the psychological intricacies of each of our speakers here, but this is where we've gone. So now I have to wonder, how are you hurt? What are you hurt by?
I just know better than to go out there and use my fists.
Lisa, are you
Well, thank goodness for that, I guess.
having these conversations with your sons?
But you have an inclination to want to use your fists to make change? You know better than to use your fists. Are you giving cover to someone who would use their fists? What?
Know better than to go out there and use my fists.
Lisa, are you having these conversations with your sons? You mentioned 2 sons that just enter the workforce.
Yes. And I think
They just entered the workforce. Isn't one like 25 and 24 or something?
I agree with all of that. And I am really focused on, okay, but what's the solution here, right?
Describe the problem first.
So if we think about DEI.
I have been thinking about DEI. I'm not quite sure you guys have been thinking about DEI the last 10 minutes.
What is the access issue and what's the inclusion issue? So I cannot just be either hurt or angry. Right? I have to be far more constructive. And for me, in talking to my sons and my daughter, it's about service. And I believe that this is a pendulum. And I
It's about service?
think to Ursula's point, we're far more equipped to make it through, the current sort of environment and atmosphere.
I have no doubt that you will make it through the current environment and atmosphere. You're all millionaire CEOs. What? I'm still bewildered as to exactly what Damocles sword is hanging over your heads right now as a result of the detraction of DEI. What?
Than a lot of folks, and we will.
I have a voice.
Yes.
You certainly do.
Yeah.
A position.
Yes, you do. As far as I understand, you've had several positions, even running Xerox.
Money.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Tell me about the healthcare differential between you and me.
Followership. Whatever the heck it is.
You know, you've got all these things. Uh-huh.
And we have to use that, even though it is really expensive, right?
To do what?
It's one of the more expensive things, so let's use it all
To use it to do what? What is your expenditure on doing
the
what?
time, every chance that you can. We're not trying to convert all of these people out here to believe that I'm better than them or equal to them. I don't.
Yeah. Well, yes, You're not trying to convert all these people out here to believe that you're better than them, equal to them. Okay, well, the better part, I'll tell you what, that's not happening. Equal to? It depends on what you mean by equal. Equal insofar as opportunity, equality under the law. If you're talking about equality of outcome, well, best of luck on that one.
Give a hoot. I just
You don't give a
want them to follow. This is why I'm so nervous now.
Rule of law.
Follow the rules.
Okay, what are the rules? You know what? I'll play dumb for a second here. What rules, what laws are not being followed? You tell me, what laws are not being followed?
Yes.
Follow the rules.
What rules?
But that's been going on for a long time where people haven't cared about the rules.
Yeah, but
You're right. It's been going on a long time. People haven't cared about the rules. Mostly DEI being allowed to foment all these years without challenge.
now we have a structure that's changing.
What structure? Please, if you're going to start talking like an armchair lawyer, and Lord knows I have before, by all means, cite what laws you are referring to.
Right? We have nowhere to go. We have to be really careful about this.
You have to be really careful about following federal law. Yeah, I know. If you're a business and you're hiring people because of their race, you got to be careful.
Literally, if they pick you up on the street and send you into a place, you could be there for 21 days, even though the rules say you can't.
What? What in Sam Hill are you talking about? What?
And we'll send you somewhere and let you out.
Is this suddenly an immigration argument?
That should be making
Playing field is different. It
everyone
is different.
nervous.
It is-
What are... Okay. Boy, oh boy, guys. I have no idea what she's talking about. Unless she's... I mean, I can only assume she's referring to ICE, I guess. Is anybody at this table in danger of being picked up by ICE? And again, she hasn't specified what she's talking about. But what the heck was that? I should have that Ron Burgundy, boy, that escalated quickly clip. But I mean, in the absence of that.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Picked up and held for 21 days. Because you're defending DEI?
It's different. It is
Everyone
different.
should be nervous and pick one of these common things and make sure you fight it.
But it's
Oh, man.
hard to catalyze that fear into
I agree.
action.
I agree.
Action against what? What are you even talking about? My brain is blowing up here. We suddenly went from vague, amorphous, abstract notions about DEI to suddenly random arrests and pickups. This lady fears being picked up and arrested for no cause and held for 21 days. In what world does this lady exist?
It's really hard
Okay.
to do that when you don't feel that you have the privilege or access, whether real.
You are all millionaire CEOs! What privilege or access do you lack? What are you talking about?
Or myth to do that. So I just, as I speak to people every day in executive search and they don't
You speak to people every day in executive surge?
necessarily feel self-empowered to kind of say, you know what, this is a toxic culture. I don't care if it's Fortune 500 or 250. I'm out.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know where we are. I don't even know what they're talking about. We have leapfrogged across entire dimensions of topic and thought here in under 5 minutes.
But that's why it's so important for us.
Moderator, could you moderate? Seriously, why were you given this job if you weren't going to actually keep people on track and ask relevant questions, clear and relevant questions?
To be out there and use our voice and pick our cause, and particularly for and around young people. It's
Young people, full stop? No other qualifiers? I mean, if that's true, okay.
critical.
How deep-seated, though, do you think this will be? I mean, we talk about the person in the White House.
You guys are talking about the person in the White House without actually saying his name, which is funny.
In theory, he'll be gone, but
In theory, he'll be gone.
you have a court system now
A court system now.
that seems to be tilting in favor of a lot of his ideas and policies. You have
Really? Have you seen the Supreme Court completely slap back, as the kids would say, against Donald Trump's lawsuits and things recently? Bring up affirmative action, because affirmative action transcends Donald Trump's involvement.
state legislatures that seem to be tilting in favor of those policies.
Yeah, state legislatures tilting in favor of established civil rights laws.
Is what's being done now going to become so entrenched that it's not just your children that might be dealing with, but maybe your grandchildren?
I can only hope so. I can only hope that the laws that were established over half a century ago, or nearly half a century ago now, are actually adhered to. I can only hope so, because I've been watching for the last decade as they haven't been. And it's been an absolute horror show. So I honestly don't believe that anybody at this table has a grasp of what it is that they're asking, because they either are unable or unwilling to acknowledge the inherent contradiction of DEI to establish law. It's baffling, honestly, because these are not stupid people. They're unaware. You know, like I said, the one guy had to remind everybody at the table, hey, remember, we're all a bunch of rich CEOs sitting here.
I think there are mindsets that are pro and con DEI.
Mm-hmm. I don't find a lot of pro unless you happen to be the beneficiary of a weighted program. Would you guys like to at least entertain the cons and discuss those a little bit?
That are becoming more entrenched.
I guess I've been entrenched since the get-go. I don't like when people are discriminated against racially. It doesn't matter what the race is.
One side or the other, because aside from race, on every aspect of American life, the differences, the gulf between one viewpoint and another viewpoint is more entrenched and clear.
Aside from race? I mean, I'm not going to argue with the uptick, the decided uptick in political polarization in the last 10 years. That has been the case, and it's been, you want to talk about hurt, psychological hurt. Watching people dancing around people's graves if they're of the wrong political persuasion, or hoping for such to happen to someone because they're the wrong political persuasion. It's a small thing, I suppose, in the grand scheme, but it's definitely disheartening.
So I think really we have to, again, as always, look at these circumstances and map out our own direction, which we're constantly trying to read the tea leaves for how we're going to navigate.
Okay, how are you going to navigate around civil rights law and maintain DEI?
And succeed as well as possible. The pendulum does swing to a certain degree.
Right. Donald Trump's not going to be president forever, and you could have a Democrat in the White House in 2028 or 2029, and everything could be reversed. And you're going to get everything that you want back again, right?
But I think what we're seeing now is unfortunately a very, and we've heard this many times, divided, philosophically divided country.
But you won't even entertain the opposing viewpoint to DEI. You'll mention it in passing, but you won't even bring up like, okay, well, what are the main complaints against DEI? And what, if any, are the merits of those discussions?
Which is concerning for the entire country.
Right.
But
that pendulum analogy, I mean, can you even rely on that?
You're not even talking about DEI anymore.
This environment.
Exactly. Also, why do we want to look at something that's going to swing at us? We've got to tell people, look inside now.
We want to look at it if it's coming.
Right, and duck, of course. But I
look at it when it's coming and duck.
do think, also telling young people to look, drive with your own values. Stop looking outside of yourself for affirmation of what wealth looks like. What does success look like? Define this on your own terms.
What does success look like? What does wealth look like? Define that on your own terms. I think the forces and strictures of expenditure, cost of living, and everything else kind of tells you what is success and what is wealth. Okay. And what does that have to do with DEI?
And I really mean this. I have a 7-year-old.
Great.
And I'm thinking about AI. I'm thinking about where my son will be in like 20 years.
I have every hope that your son will be fine, and AI has nothing to do with it.
The skills that he will need. And I think the pull is to be like, yes, over here, follow this one person. That's not going to work anymore.
I didn't know that over here, follow this one person was some baked into the society notion. What? Okay.
Look where we are now, and I think
where are we now?
Need examples. I mean,
yeah, you need examples. You need role models.
Here we all are. We're right here.
Oh, you all are. You're right there. Okay, so you guys are the role models that everybody else should be basing their career paths on. A lady who is so paranoid about what people think of her that everybody that looks at her sideways is obviously a racist, sexist who doesn't believe she belongs there. people who want the rule of law to be followed, but seemingly don't have an understanding of what the conflicts with the law for what they're proposing are. Talking about hurt, and they're all sitting as rich CEOs at a table that Bloomberg invited them to because of their race, first and foremost, and then because of their status and position. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%, Romaine. 100%.
Yeah, I 100%. They see them.
Do you feel ownership? I mean, of this country is.
Do you feel ownership of this country? You're all in the 1%.
This your country?
This is my country.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't it be? What are you talking about? What question is that?
Right.
This is my country. Absolutely no doubt.
And this country's been very good to me.
No kidding.
It has been, exactly.
But and yet,
I mean,
I'm not throwing that out.
So you feel.
Oh, no. This is my country. Everything's fine. It's just that everybody who doesn't look like me is targeting me, is my enemy, who wants me to fail, who doesn't believe in me, who thinks that I'm the enemy.
Each of us have lived the American dream. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Despite all the slings and arrows targeted against you, somehow you're all sitting at that table, multi-millionaire CEOs. Oh, boy.
The rest of the world.
We ain't going nowhere.
And the rest of the world.
I absolutely, my mother and father came from Panama. I am an American.
Same.
Okay.
I am an American, and I'm going to fight for my right in the words that they wrote down.
How about the words that they wrote down with Title VII of the Civil Rights Act 1964? Are you going to fight for those words? And defend DEI?
Not the way we're living it.
Not the way we're living it. What are you talking about?
With the amendments to the Constitution is actually not a bad document.
Well, I mean, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure about the value or the virtues of our Constitution. But now with that review, I'm assured.
I think this is a great set of rules. Let's go for that.
I mean, you're
Really? Okay. Broken record. Then tell me about Title VII.
your story is remarkable.
If you say so. I don't know.
My father had a 7th grade education. My mother had an 11th grade education. And in this country, they were able to raise and put through college 3 kids.
Really? In their day and age? Wow. Huh. Okay.
Own multiple homes and other properties.
Wow. In their day and age? Okay.
Start their own business, become pillars of the community, and have a street named after them.
Well, that sounds practically storybook. On a 7th and an 11th grade education.
This is a great country.
Well, based on everything that was said prior to this, you could have fooled me.
And I agree with you, Ursula. We have the skill set and the wherewithal to prepare our own. Unfortunately, I think we've done a pretty good job of lowering the bar.
Okay, and what do you mean by that?
For some of our children.
How so?
Fear has been my number one motivator. Right?
Fear has been your number one motivator? If that's true, what a terrible way to live.
Right. So I woke up in the morning and sat around the oven because that was the source of heat.
Uh-huh.
in an apartment. And so that fear that comes from that experience of waking up in the morning with my siblings sitting around the oven to get heat, that motivates me. And I think that every generation tries to make things easier for the next generation.
Of course, that's your parental impulse, is to take your experiences, and especially if you're in an experience where you're deprived of something or you had it bad, that you don't want those same, detriments to befall your own children. That's natural. Does that make your potential children softer than you because they didn't, or you don't want them to go through the same hardships? Sure. But they'll have their own hardships. And sometimes life is going to come and smack them upside the head regardless, no matter what you do. So, okay, this has nothing to do with DEI, yet this is a common thing. I mean, I decidedly had it better. Me and my sister had it much better growing up than the stories I was told by my mother and father in their growing up, because it was a completely different time and a completely different economy, and situations were far different, if you can believe it. And my parents went to extreme efforts to protect myself and my sister from those same kind of hardships. And as far as I'm concerned, they succeeded in spades. And I'm thankful for it. And I appreciate them more because of it. And if you go back another generation, what their parents had to go through. My grandmother and her family having to survive the Dust Bowl, for crying out loud. I mean, this is... It can't compare. But this is how, people evolve and hopefully try to do better for their children than they had it themselves. Okay, and in your situation, boy oh boy, your kids have absolutely nothing to worry about the same way you did. So
I've worked really hard so they don't have to live that way. But
yes, and would you have it any other way?
I'm not sure
That
in
should
the process.
be a good thing, though, right?
I'm not sure in the process I've done the right thing by them.
Okay, and what does this have to do with hiring somebody on the basis of their skin color? What are you guys talking
We'll
about?
have, you haven't lowered the bar. It's a beautiful thing to
Now it's just a therapy session.
make something easier to step over. I think,
And it
why
won't
is it
even
that I
be
think
easier.
and that's what I mean.
That's a different
So
kind
now
of
You guys want it to be easier. DEI makes it easier by taking away the barriers, right? The presumed barriers of all HR departments who are inherently racist and sexist. By gaming the system and rigging it so that someone gets a job because of their race, because of their gender, first and foremost. If you're afraid of making it easier for your kids because they don't have to have the hardships of real life, then why are you in favor of DEI, which is a shortcut for people on the basis of their race and their gender? Good golly, the absolute cognitive dissonance.
there, rather than
Different,
worrying
yeah.
about it, what I
Different kind of
did, sitting there with, yes, the red line bill from Con Ed, the lights went off, you put your headphones on, you put on like the flashlight, and you get on and you do your homework.
Which affected not just people on the basis of their race, but okay.
Okay, Kai will not experience a red line letter from Con Ed, but he will experience other things. So now he has the emotional space to take on other things.
Are we also armchair psychologists around this table too?
I'm worrying about if the rent is going to get paid. I
You're not worried about the rent.
don't want my 7-year-old to worry about that. Now he can worry about other things that he will still have to navigate that
Yes, life will find a way.
I faced. So I really say there's no lowering of the bar. You're allowing them to step higher.
If you don't meet your own expectations, and God forbid you fail kind of publicly,
Sometimes failure is the greatest teacher.
and objectively in what you're trying to do. Think of how devastating that is and the pressure that puts on a child.
Okay, so we've moved from DEI discussion to child psychology and family dynamic counseling.
Or to live up to the expectations of your parents.
They're going to have their own
and
bars
when you
to
try
leap
to do
over.
things.
I am just about ready to stop listening to this because this stopped being what I was interested in the first place. I mean that sincerely. This is no longer the discussion that I thought we were having. The moderator is an utter failure.
On your own.
And by
That's
the way,
a challenge
both of my sons get stopped. So I hate to tell you, but
I know.
Both of your sons get stopped.
he
Well,
will
that's
have
why
that
I'm thinking
challenge.
let him not worry about Con
He'll
Ed
get stopped.
because he will get stopped. And God,
I'm sure your sons got stopped for no reason whatsoever.
what would I have been able to accomplish if part of my mental health had not been delivered over to dealing with racism?
Okay, I'm going to give it another minute here, guys. I don't think I can last the rest of this. And I also am coming up against the clock. I didn't think it would take this long, but man.
Internalizing it, navigating it, showing up in the room.
You internalizing racism, if that is what you're doing, is your own choice.
Figuring it all out, being competent, overcompetent.
Yeah, having to be competent in your job. I know, it's a crazy thing to ask people to do.
Blah, blah, blah.
We talk about how the socioeconomic climate is impacting us.
We do? I mean, you're all rich.
I think that there's something even larger impacting our children. And
Okay, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not even interested anymore in their counseling session. There was only 7 minutes left in this thing, 8 minutes left, and that's going to take another half an hour or something to have to sit through with this nonsense. And there's nothing here for me. There's nothing here of value for me to analyze, to think about, to see what their opinions are, because we've gone way past that. They've been able to talk themselves out of having to address anything even remotely relevant to the subject, because the moderator is not keeping them on task, and seemingly had no plan whatsoever for this conversation. So there you go, guys. I mean, if you want to watch the rest of it yourself, a link to the original video is in the description. Also, a link to part 1, which at least ostensibly was more on topic than the majority of this part 2. Go to the comments here for a second. Have they made a point yet? A point? Not really. There's been a lot of sort of self-confessions of things and mentality and contradiction. The closest that we got to someone actually describing the process by which DEI was implemented in their own company was the one lady telling us about how she made a call to action to diversify their management team. And it wasn't just by hiring people because of their race and their gender, but also the best people. Yeah. At a BC, told you the podcast sucked last time. They kind of were repeating their dumb talks because they had no roadmap. Yeah. And I primarily blame the moderator. A lot of this could be focused in, and there could have been much more productive things said, at least, or at least a more clear direction if the moderator had actually had a plan. A list of questions, a list of topics to cover, and occasionally interjected with a challenge. You know, or something. Somebody says something demonstrably vague or contradictory, as was obvious multiple times in this, and he never said a word. I don't know. Luke Skyward 2. This has been so profoundly dumb and nonsense. I know. Well, like I said, my hope springs eternal. And where things were kind of going in the first part, I thought maybe there'd be something more. Walter Thomas FC, Dust Bowl, are you an Oklahomie? Well, my grandparents were. My grandmother. Well, my grandparents, they moved in their various ways before they got married and otherwise throughout the South for family-seeking work and so on and so forth. Asan, what's a red line letter? I think that's just a notice of power outages taking place because stuff? I don't know. I honestly don't know what a red line letter was. Counterpoint, Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. I don't know. Blue-eyed scream. She wants to discriminate against whites for revenge. I'd respect her more if she just come out and say it. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of implication without specification in these kind of talks of what they mean to do, what they mean to achieve, and how they mean to do it. But anyway, everybody, apologize for not completing the talk, but I just couldn't. There's nothing there for me anymore. If they're going to be talking about their kids and their hopes and their dreams and everything else for so on, it's like, well, I wish them all the best, but this has nothing to do with the subject matter I came to listen to. I wanted to hear specifically from these CEOs, because this is what Bloomberg promised, that there was going to be some insight provided as to what the backlash or the fallout from anti-DEI initiatives and executive orders and so on would be on, again, because of who they brought on the table, to black business leaders. And all I heard was, well, now we can't hire everybody we want to on the basis of race as easily as we did before. Oh no. And if the circumstances were on the opposite end of the proverbial aisle, and there was a specific program or philosophy in place that said, diversity, equity, and inclusion means hiring white men, you'd never hear the end of the criticism, and rightfully so. But flip those demographics around and suddenly, oh, well, now it's an injustice if we take that away. Anyway, guys, there you go. Supplemental to DEI Deathwatch from Monday. And now a programming note. Tomorrow, Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, will be the next episode of TED Excellence. Right now, over in the Discord server, there is a poll to help me decide which topic I shall cover tomorrow on TED Excellence. The options currently are, so help me choose, what remedy to a big concept shall we interrogate? Fixing our democracy, fixing renters' rights, or fixing our voting system? Those are the options over on the Discord server. By the way, would you like to join the Discord server? Well, if you're not already a member of the Discord server, let me tell you about the Discord server. By putting a link to the Discord server in the chat. Click on that link, you'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you actually watched the stream, are not a bot, and of us earn the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is going to come to us from Pulp Apocalypse, your survival guide to men's post-apocalyptic adventure paperbacks and comics. It's very sexist. Today's secret word is melted. There you go. Just say hello, melted, and I'll know that you watched the show. Outside of that, again, tomorrow, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, TED Excellence, usually on Mondays, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time for DEI Deathwatch, to which this is an extension of. And there may be ambush streams in between of different things. You never know. So that's why you need to follow me on X and also subscribe to the channel. And also, if you're not already aware, in about 5 or 10 minutes, because I have to go back and do work stuff, over on Midnight's Edge will be Midnight's Edge in the morning, where they're going to be talking about the movie stuff going on with James Gunn and Superman and the Odyssey, and I'll bet they'll be talking about Nightmare on Elm Street being rebooted. Oh boy, so if you have any interest in movies and pop culture and so on, go check out Midnight's Edge and the upcoming stream in just a few minutes of Midnight's Edge in the morning with Tom Connors, Andre, whose last name I always screw up so I don't even try anymore, and Paul Chato, and probably Chris Brawley, and all those guys. So go check that out. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the link in the chat box to Blood Cancer United's donation page, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Everyone, hope you have a good rest of your Wednesday, hump day. Hope you have a good rest of your week. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.